Hello student, myself Mrs. Harsha Dhope from Praveen Patil Polytechnic, Mahindra. Today we are going to study next part of our chapter 1. Learning outcomes of these videos are, after watching this video, you will be able to know about process models. In last lecture, we have studied about different kinds of umbrella activities. We have studied the umbrella activities are software project tracking and control, risk management, software quality assurance, formal technical review, measurement, and reusability management. The next we will study process models. Mainly there are two kinds of process model, perspective process model and specialized process model. Perspective process model, it is divided into three parts, that is waterfall model, rad model and spiral model. Specialized process model is divided into two parts, component based model and formal method model. Then let's start with your first process model, that is the perspective process model. Under this you have to study waterfall model, rad model and spiral model. Start with the waterfall model. Waterfall model is also called as linear sequential model or classic life cycle model. The software development starts with requirements gathering phase, then progress through analysis, design, coding, testing and maintenance. In a diagram you can see the illustration of waterfall model. In requirement gathering and analysis phase, the basic requirement of the system must be understood by software engineer. The design is an intermediate step between requirements analysis and coding. Design focus on program attributes such as data structure, software architecture, interface representation, and algorithmic details. Coding is a step in which design is translated into machine-readable form. Programs are created in this phase. Testing begins when coding is done. The purpose of testing is to uncover errors, fix the bugs, and meet the customer requirement. Maintenance is the longest life cycle phase. When the system is installed and put in practical use, then errors may get introduced. Correcting such errors and putting it in use is the major purpose of maintenance activity. Similarly, enhancing system services as new requirements are discovered is again maintenance of the system. Then we'll see what are the advantages of waterfall model. The waterfall model is simple to implement. It is very simple to implement. For implementation of small systems, waterfall model is used. Then we'll see what are the disadvantages of waterfall model. It is difficult to follow the sequential flow in software development process. If some changes are made at some phases, then it may cause some confusion. The requirement analysis is done initially and sometimes it is not possible to state all the requirements explicitly at the beginning. This is also one of the disadvantages of waterfall model. The next we will study RAD model. RAD, it is an incremental model. It is a type of you can say incremental process in which there is extremely short development cycle. When the requirements are fully understood and the component based construction approach is adopted, then the RAD model is used. Using the RAD model, the fully functional system can be developed within 60 to 90 days. You have to remember that RAD model development cycle is 60 to 90 days. Various phases in RAD are requirement gathering, analysis and planning, design, build or construction, and finally deployment. Multiple teams work on developing the software system using RAD model parallelly. In the requirement gathering phase, the developer communicates with the user of the system and understands the business process and requirements of the software system. During analysis and planning phase, the analysis on the gathered requirement is made and planned for various software development. During the design phase, various models are created. Those models are business model, data model, and process model. Build is an activity in which working code is generated. This code is well tested by its team. Finally, the deployment of the software components that is created by various teams working on that particular project, it is carried out. Means they will gather all the teamwork. Advantages of RAD modulas: find faster development cycle, encourages user involvement, and low maintenance cost. Disadvantages are it has reduced scalability, not appropriate when technical risks are high. Then next we will study spiral model. This model possesses the iterative nature of prototyping model and controlled and systematic approaches of linear sequential model. This model gives efficient development of incremental version of software. In this model, the software is developed in series of increments. The spiral model is divided into a number of framework activities. These framework activities are denoted by task region. Usually there are 6 task regions. The spiral model is as shown in figure. In the diagram, you can see that particular spiral model. Spiral model is realistic approach to develop of large scale system. Okay, where there is need to develop the large scale system model, then spiral model is used. Remember this point. In the initial pass, product specification is built, and in subsequent passes around the spiral, the prototype gets developed, and then more improved version of software gets developed. That's all. That's about a spiral model development process. During the planning phase, the cost and schedule of software can be planned. In spiral model, project entry point axis is defined, and this axis represents starting point of different types of project. For instance, concept development project will start at core of spiral and will continue along the spiral path. The task region can be described as customer communication. In this region, it is suggested to establish customer communication. Planning. All planning activities are carried out in order to define resources, timeline, and other project related activities. Risk analysis. The tasks required to calculate technical and management risks are carried out. Engineering. In this task region, tasks required to build one or more representations of applications are carried out. In the diagram, you can see the particular engineering phase. And next is the construct and release. All the necessary tasks required to construct, test, install the application are conducted. Some tasks that are required to provide user support are also carried out in this task region. The next is the customer evaluation. Customer feedback is obtained, and based on customer evaluation, required tasks are performed and is implemented at installation stage. In each region, number of work tasks are carried out depending upon the characteristics of project. In spiral model, the software engineering team moves around the spiral in a clockwise direction beginning at the core. Then we will see what are the advantages of spiral model and disadvantages. Advantages of spiral model are: in this model, it has iterative nature, hence requirement can be identified at new iteration. Requirement changes can be made at every stage of new version. Risk can be identified and reduced before it's get problematic. Then what are the disadvantages of spiral model? This model is based on customer communication. So, if there is not proper communication, then the product being developed is not up to the mark. And one more disadvantage is that it demands considerable risk assessment. If the risk assessment is done properly, then only a successful product can be obtained. That's all about your spiral model. Okay, earlier we have seen that process models are divided mainly into two parts: perspective process model and specialized process model. Perspective process model, okay, we have seen this process model is divided into two parts: perspective and specialized. Perspective is divided into three parts: waterfall, head and spinal model. We have studied all the perspective process model. Okay, thank you for watching this video.